Hey guys, it's Christy and welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for joining me. Today we're going to be talking about some makeup releases from this past year that I am glad I skipped out on, and two products that I wish I had picked up. So before we get into it, I hope you'll consider subscribing to my channel before you leave. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoy, and let's get into it. Alright you guys, so as we know, there are a ton of new makeup releases every single year. There are some products that I saw get released and I almost picked them up, and then for whatever reason I chose not to. So let's talk about the most recent, which is the Huda Beauty Empowered palette. So this palette looks pretty enough. I typically love Huda's larger palettes. I was fully planning on picking up this year's to review. And what stopped me was the color story. It just seemed in some ways quite repetitive. I always say is one of her greatest strengths with her palettes is the way she plays with texture and uses those different textures in her palettes. And I've always loved that about Huda, and I really think it gives such a uniqueness to her products. But sometimes I do think that that can detract from the products, and that definitely happened with this palette for me. I know there's two cream shades in there. There's like a deep purple and a black that were cream shades, and I was hearing a lot of people say that they didn't fully set down, so you really wanted to set them with powder if you had to. And there was also like a gel kind of a shade in there, and it kind of really deterred me from the palette. I do think some of it looks really pretty and some of it just didn't cater to my taste personally. And this also came out around the same time as the Natasha Denona My Dream. They look kind of similar, and honestly I knew I loved the My Dream palette, so I knew that I would be fine to just pick that one up and pass on the Empowered, and I'm kind of glad I did. The next group of products is the Melt Zodiac collection. So this was a collection of 4 palettes, and I guess each shade was named after the worst qualities of those signs. So it was like air, water, earth, and fire, and the shade names were named after the worst qualities of those signs. And I thought that was a fun idea. I thought it looked kind of cool. I'm really curious about Melt eyeshadows. I have not tried them myself. I am very curious to try them out and dying to try their formula. So I'm really curious, and I almost picked those up. The color stories were honestly just a little more bold than I would personally like, and I knew I might not enjoy as much, so I did choose to pass on that. And I also chose to pass on their bronzers they released this year, and I'm really glad I did, because this was definitely the year of bronzer, and I swear I tried out almost every single one that came out, but the one from Melt definitely caught my attention. I was definitely debating on it, but then I was seeing reviews of people saying that the tones were very off, and that completely deterred me. I am somebody who is very picky about my bronzer tone, so I knew that that would not be for me. Then I have on the list the Too Faced Pumpkin Spice Second Slice palette. I'm not always consistent on whether or not I pick up the Too Faced holiday palettes. I change my mind here and there, and Too Faced is just a brand that is so inconsistent. Their pumpkin spice palette from a couple years ago is pretty good. It's not amazing, but it's pretty good. The Better Than Chocolate palette that came out earlier this year is not a favorite. Their formula is so inconsistent that I chose to pass on this particular palette. I didn't think it was very unique. I was curious about it, and I definitely thought about it, but I chose to pass, and I'm ultimately glad I did. I just find that their price point is so high for a formula that is so inconsistent. I did hear good things about that palette, so maybe there are good things to come in the future, but I just didn't want to spend the money on something that I wasn't sure about, and I wasn't sure about the quality. Okay, another more recent release is the Tarte Holiday Blush Palette. So this came with 5 limited edition blush shades and their classic Park Avenue Princess bronzer. So I really debated on this one. So Tarte has really had my attention this year. Not that I've picked up a ton, but they really had my attention. And so I was debating on picking up this blush palette, especially during the Black Friday sales, because their Amazonian clay blush formula is so good. It's very, very long lasting. I've never tried the Park Avenue Princess bronzer and I would be curious to do so. But then I got thinking about it and they're all limited edition blush shades, which is kind of frustrating when I'm trying to link things in the description box for you guys. Not to mention, it takes forever to go through a blush. I do not need another blush palette. So I decided to hold off on that one, and I'm glad I did, because now that I'm sort of past that, I'm not really thinking about it as much, so I'm glad I skipped on that one as well. And then the last collection of products that I am glad I skipped this year was the Huda Beauty Color Block palettes. So these were released early in the year, and they do have some of her cake liners in there. The color stories are definitely much more bold than I would personally like. I would never wear these types of shades. If I'm going with more color, I'm going very monochromatic with it, and I try to keep it very me, whereas these are just not, and I'm not interested in the water activated cake liners. And then these palettes did not even get the best reviews. So very glad I skipped on those. If you're familiar with my channel, you know my skepticism with the Huda 9 pans. Sometimes they're so good, sometimes they're not good at all. So I'm really glad I skipped on these. So let's hop into the two products that came out this year that I'm still kicking myself for not picking up when I had the chance. So the first is the Tarte Maneater palette. So this was released at the very end of August. This was like their big, I guess their big holiday release, and it looks so beautiful. So beautiful. The perfect fall palette. The packaging looks so luxe for Tarte in general, and this palette had amazing reviews. People were raving about this. People have not raved about a Tarte eyeshadow palette in years, and I don't even remember what the last one was that really got people's attention, so I'm really kicking myself on that one. I really wish I had picked that one up. It's just so pretty. The last product is one that came out early this year, and I may still pick up if it comes back in stock, but this is the RMS blushes. These look so beautiful and so just bright and vibrant, and I really wish I would have picked them up. I have not tried a lot from RMS, but what I have tried I really enjoyed. I just think their products look very high quality, and one thing that kind of deterred me initially was the Sephora photos don't really show how nice the packaging actually is. It wasn't until I saw it in people's reviews or in other photos where you could actually see that the packaging is actually quite nice, because in the Sephora photos the packaging looks very just kind of bland, and RMS is not a cheaper brand. So that kind of deterred me a little bit, and now I am just really wishing I had picked those up. So hopefully they come back in stock and I can pick one up, but that is it. Those are the products that I am glad I skipped on this year, and the two that I really missed out on and wish I hadn't. So let me know down below what you are kicking yourself for not picking up. I think we're all in the same boat with that sometimes, but that's just the way it goes. So thank you so very much for watching. If you're new here, I hope you'll consider subscribing before you go. I do upload at least 3 new videos every single week. Thank you again so very much for watching, and I will see you in my next one. Bye!